All right, everydayers, welcome on back. Finishing up this crossover Thursday edition. Locked on Eagles, Locked on Jags, Gino Camilleri, Tony Wiggins, finishing up this edition of the show. Hopefully this isn't the Alamo for Doug Peterson, his last stand. Things haven't been going great in Jacksonville, but they put up a fight last week against the Green Bay Packers, put up a ton of points, and FanDuel right now has the over wig at 45.5. I'm looking at that, even though the Eagles are 7.5 point favorites, and saying, as good as the Eagles defense has been the last 3 weeks, only allowing 2 touchdowns that came in that game against Joe Burrow, I don't think that is going to be what they do the rest of the year. It has to come to a middle ground at some point. And Doug Peterson, with all the emotion, I think they're going to put up a stand against the Birds.
Yeah, they will. I'm a little bit concerned about it because of their injuries, the fact that they're banged up. A healthy Jaguars team, they usually put up a good fight against everybody. That's just kind of the way it is. But they make enough mistakes. They did this a few years ago when they came up to Philadelphia. They'll make enough mistakes, and those mistakes will be huge. Like Trevor Lawrence played well last week. He's played well for 3 weeks in a row. The thing is though, he threw an ill-advised pass early in the game after the Jaguars had got a red zone interception against Jordan Love. He gave it right back to him, and they scored a touchdown. Then late in the game, when they're still in the game, I think at this point it's 20-17, he fumbles the ball inside of his own 5-yard line trying to run, and they went up by 10. Don't care how well you played down the stretch, you take those 2 plays out of the game, it's a whole different ball game. So you're going to see somebody in Trevor Lawrence that you're going to be like, I see why they think he's a franchise quarterback. And then you'll see a few plays where you go, I see why other people don't. But it is the most Jay Cutler type thing you ever want to see in your life. There's a big variance between, like I tell people this story all the time. I used to watch when Green Bay, when Cutler was in Chicago, him and Aaron Rodgers, I just get my popcorn and watch them throw the ball. There wasn't that much difference. The difference is one guy was careless with the ball, and the other guy might have been at that time the dude that never threw interceptions. That's it. So, Doug Peterson, as far as him getting another shot, coaches usually get 2 franchises, 2 chances. They usually don't get 3. Mm-hmm. And I just think Doug Peterson is going to end up going down that lane where like a Norv Turner went, like great championship caliber coach, but just not the leader that you want for a franchise, especially a team like the Jaguars that are still searching for culture.
It's tough. It's tough to hear because we went through this exact same thing. I think feel like you are doing the shows that we did at Locked on Eagles 4 years ago.
That's the indictment.
Yeah, that you didn't change.
The indictment is, we're 900 miles away from each other, probably a little bit more than that. And we're saying the same things, and it's 4 years removed.
Mm-hmm.
So that means whatever you thought you saw, if y'all thought, okay, I know Philly fans were like, let's see whose fault it was. Was it really his fault, or was it Howie Roseman? Like, the Jimmy Johnson and the Jerry Jones situation, 30 years of evidence that told you that they ran the wrong guy out of town, and Jerry should have just kept Jimmy. It wasn't Howie Roseman. It was Doug. There wasn't a combination of them where it didn't work. No, Howie Roseman ain't nothing like Trent Baalke. But this situation looks exactly like that one. And it feels like that. And it hurts me to talk about him like this. But you got to, check your feelings and just keep it real. And I'm keeping it real. I'm sorry that he had to work under Trent Baalke, but Doug Peterson hasn't done what, everyone thought he was going to do. Now, granted, he came in and took a bad situation, and they went 9-8 and went to the playoffs. They went 9-8 again last year, and they missed the playoffs. They won 8 games. They were 8-3, and then they tanked down the stretch. The year before, they were 2-7 and won a whole bunch of games to get in. It's wild to think that those 2 things could happen in 2 successive years, and we not even look at it and say, wait, this is too big. That's too big of a gap of during one season. Like, they're really bad, and then they're really good, and then they're really good, and then they're really bad. And now this 3rd year has really shown that it's more of the bad than it is the good, and that's a sad situation.
And I think exactly what you just said could be said about Nick Sirianni as well, where it's like The coach, GM, you know who's going to leave if there's ever a disgruntlement. It's going to be the coach. Like you said, Howie
Has to be
going nowhere. And the Trent Baalke discussion, that's for a different day. But I will say that the last time the Eagles had a competent head coach and a young GM that they played last week in Joe Burrow and Zach Taylor, as opposed to the two they played before that in Deshaun Watson and Daniel Jones, I think they have a better opportunity to maybe push the pace against the Eagles. But I will say the one indictment on Trevor Lawrence, he's going to give this team some opportunities to make plays on the ball.
Yep.
Eagles won the turnover differential big last week against Cincinnati, took the ball away from Joe Burrow, caused a couple fumbles as well. When push comes to shove, Doug Peterson had a little run in his Super Bowl year when they were just running over teams, and we were saying, okay, this is what it is to be a Philadelphia Eagles team. It almost feels like that magic has come back to Philly a little bit the last 3 weeks. That personal element with Doug, though, I don't like the 7.5 points. That's a football line. That's a rat line right there. I think a lot of points will be scored, but I think the Eagles at the end of the day, they have their one drive that they just burn the clock down. It's 8-9 plays, 7 minutes in the fourth quarter, make it a 2-possession game. Hopefully it's not the last stand for Doug.